Welcome to Creepy Vibes. Tonight, we're diving deep into the twisted heart of Texas, where the prisons hold more than just the guilty. They hold secrets, from cursed tattoos that whisper in the night, to abandoned wings where something still breathes. These are 5 true Texas prison horror stories that'll make you question what's real and what's rotting in the dark just out of sight. But before we unlock these cells, there's one thing you need to know. Most viewers make a chilling mistake. They watch, they listen, they get scared, but they don't subscribe. And those are the ones who vanish. So if you're brave enough to face what's coming, hit that subscribe button now, because the stories are only getting darker. And once you're in, there's no turning back. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Because here on Creepy Vibes, the night never ends. And the next scream you hear might be your own. Let's begin. That's what stuck with Officer Marino all these years. Not the blood, not the smell, not the bodies. It was the listening, the sense that something behind the concrete and rusted steel heard everything. It started with Ellis Price. Ellis wasn't just a death row inmate. He was the inmate, the legend. The one even lifers kept away from, 6'5", 260 pounds, and eyes that never blinked enough. His rap sheet was a horror movie in itself. Stabbed his wife 17 times, beat her boyfriend with a hammer, and left the mailman hogged in the basement because he saw too much. Said it all with a calm, steady voice in court, as if he were reading off a grocery list. Ellis didn't scream or shout like the others. He was quiet, always polite to polite. That's what made it worse. He'd been in D Block for 4 years. Before things got strange. It was Officer Marino's 3rd year on night shift. He was walking his usual round to 30 a.m. Graveyard silence, everything echoing louder than it should. The Huntsville unit was old, built in 1849, and it creaked like a dying ship. But that night, he stopped outside cell D-13. Ellis was talking to someone, whispering, real low, like he didn't want to be overheard. Marino leaned in. "You all right, Price?" Ellis turned slowly, like something inside him had to uncoil first. "Just having a chat," he said, pointing up at the vent above his cot. "With who?" Ellis smiled. "He's been here longer than me." Marino made a note in his log, but didn't report it. Inmates on death row talk to Jesus, their moms, the ghosts of their victims. It happens. The mind crumbles under the weight of the clock, ticking down to a needle in the arm. But Ellis wasn't crumbling. He was changing. It began around 3:07 a.m. sharp. Like clockwork. Deep, stomach-shaking laughter from cell D13. Not hysterical or wild, but joyful, like Ellis had finally found something that understood him. And then the banging started. From the other cells, inmates screaming, slamming fists against the walls, yelling to shut him up. But Ellis wouldn't stop. He laughed like a man who finally found a friend in hell. Marino requested a camera be installed. Administration brushed it off at first. Then a second inmate, Lester Shaw, in the cell beside Ellis, broke 3 fingers trying to claw his way out through the toilet drain. "They're in the vents," he screamed as they dragged him out. "They're watching us sleep. They crawl like snakes, and they whisper our names." The psych ward wrote it off as delusions, but then 2 more inmates started complaining, not to the staff or to the walls. They'd whisper to the air vents, their voices trembling. Marino stayed quiet until the night he heard it. It was a Tuesday, a nothing night. He was walking past D Block on his own, one of the few officers still willing to walk it alone, when he heard breathing. Not a person's breath. This was wet, thick, like something dragging mucus through narrow tubes. He stopped and tilted his head toward the vent in the hallway. And then he heard it. MORREEEENNNOOOO ... He froze, not because it said his name, but because it said it in his mother's voice. The next morning, he filed a report. The warden told him to take a few days off, said maybe the job was getting to him. By the time he came back, Ellis Price was dead. They found him smiling, laid out on the cot like he was waiting for a photograph, eyes wide open, no wounds, no signs of struggle, but he was cold. Ice-cold. And written above his head, on the concrete wall, in a dark, tarry sludge no one could identify, were 3 words: he fed me. The camera above cell D13 had gone dark from 3:01 to 3:05 a.m. power surge, the report said. But the prison hadn't had any outages that night. Then came the cover up. Cell block D was closed for maintenance. Inmates were shuffled, guards reassigned, walls repainted, vents welded shut, but the smell, a sickening, sour meat stink, never left. New cops complained about it. Some even quit. Others started hearing things, their names, in voices that weren't quite right, too soft, too perfect, like someone was rehearsing being human and almost got it right. One rookie guard, fresh out of the academy, asked Marino if he thought the building was haunted. Marino just looked up at the old duct above the officer's head and said, "Not haunted, hungry. They say the dead don't talk." But maybe that's because something else is doing all the listening, and when it's quiet enough, when the prison's asleep and the lights are low, it speaks back right through the vents. You ever heard silence so deep it feels like it's breathing? That's how it is in the solitary wing at Polunsky. The prisoners call it the box, and for good reason. It's just concrete, steel, and 23 hours a day alone with your own damn thoughts. You don't talk, you don't move. You sure as hell don't sleep right. That kind of place changes people, but some of them, they start seeing things, like Lester Kane, inmate number 53,791, double life sentence. No parole. He used to be a schoolteacher, snapped one night, killed his wife and both his sons. Stabbed the oldest 13 times, said they were infected with something, never explained what. He didn't talk much after that. Until the lights started flickering. It was early November, just after Halloween. The weather had turned. That weird Texas cold that slips into your bones even if it's 60. Outside, Officer Daniels was working night shift, walking the box with his flashlight and clipboard. Same as always, he heard humming, a soft, childish tune, off-key, like something from an old lullaby. Daniels thought it was the intercom at first, but then he turned the corner and saw Kane pressed against the window of his cell. His hands were flat on the glass, and he was smiling. That alone was enough to make Daniels pause. Kane hadn't smiled in 3 years. "She's back," Kane said, still watching the hallway. "She likes the dark." Daniels glanced down the hall, nothing but flickering lights. One buzzing overhead, one dead completely. The rest stuttering like they couldn't decide whether to stay on or off. "Who's back?" Daniels asked. Kane didn't move. "The little girl. She walks the halls when the lights go out. But she never blinks." Daniels sighed and made a note. Another lifer losing his grip. It was normal in solitary. But then the power went out. Not the whole prison, just that wing. The lights snapped off like someone had yanked a cord from the wall. Everything went dark, pitch black, can't see your hand dark. And then came the footsteps. Tiny, barefoot, slap, slap, slap. Daniels froze. It was coming from the far end of the hallway. And with each soft step, he swore he could hear humming. That same lullaby tune. The emergency lights flickered on, a low, red glow filling the corridor, and standing in the middle of it, halfway between the cells, was a little girl. Daniels' stomach dropped. She couldn't have been older than 8. Long black hair, pale feet, dressed in what looked like a torn nightgown. She was turned away from him, head tilted to one side like she was listening. Then she started walking, slow, deliberate, right toward him. Daniels stumbled back, flashlight shaking in his hand. He turned it on and shined the beam directly at her, but the light passed through her, like smoke, like she wasn't even there, and just as quickly as she came, the hallway was empty again. No footsteps, no humming, just that horrible buzzing of dying bulbs overhead. Kane started laughing from his cell, a slow, broken laugh that echoed through the wing. She didn't like that, he said. The next night, the lights went out again. Same time, 3:12 a.m. Another officer, Collins, swore he saw the girl, too, said she stared right at him through the glass of cell 9 before vanishing through the door without opening it. They checked the footage, but the cameras glitched out every single time. The lights flickered. The warden tried to blame old wiring. The tech guys rewired the panel 3 times. Didn't matter. The flickering came back, and so did she. By December, 5 inmates in solitary had gone completely silent. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat, just stared at the walls with wide, terrified eyes. When asked what was wrong, they all said the same thing: she's inside the vents now. One of them, a big guy named Tucker, scratched words into his own arm using a piece of metal from his bed frame. The words said, "She has no face." They tried transferring Kane to a new cell, but he wouldn't leave. He screamed and clawed and bit the officers trying to drag him out. "She feeds in the dark," he shouted, "and when the lights stay on too long, she gets hungry." After that, no one walked the box alone, not even the old-timers. They started keeping flashlights taped to their belts and refused to work past 3 a.m. Some even wore crosses or carried little bottles of holy water like they were in a damn exorcism. But it didn't help, because even when the lights are on, you can feel her watching, right there in the corner of your vision. Waiting. And every now and then, when the power dips or the emergency lights flicker, someone hears it, that soft, off-key lullaby. And a little girl's voice, whispering from the dark, "Tag, you're it." They say East Texas dirt has memory, the kind that doesn't forget, the kind that soaks up pain and keeps it warm underground. At Eastham unit, nestled just outside Lovelady, they don't talk much about what's buried out back. The old-timers, guards who've seen men hang themselves with shoelaces, lifers who've stabbed someone just to get a day in court and out of the heat. They keep their mouths shut when it comes to the field, but if you walk far enough past the cotton, rows and rusted tractors, you'll find it, a bare patch of land where nothing grows. The grass dies before it sprouts, and even the crows won't land there. That's where they dug the hole. It started in 1963. Back then, the warden was a man named Harlan Jessup. Hard old bastard with no use for second chances. He believed in punishment, the kind that didn't leave bruises the board could see. So when one inmate, a mule-headed bank robber named Otis Lane, tried to stab a guard with a whittled toothbrush, Jessup made an example out of him. He had some of the other inmates dig a pit behind the field, 12 feet deep, lined with rough concrete. No roof, just a rusty ladder and the steel hatch to close over the top. They threw Otis in there for a week. By the time they pulled him out, he couldn't speak, just screamed whenever he saw sunlight. Died 2 months later, never said a word. But that didn't stop Jessup. For 5 years, the hole became a quiet part of Eastham's punishment system. No records, no logs, just whispers and warnings. Guards threatened it like the boogeyman. "Keep acting up," they'd say, "and you'll get a little dirt time." Then, in 1968, 3 inmates were tossed in together after a fight, and only one came back. His name was Roy Fenley. He climbed out shaking, covered in dried blood, mumbling something about a hand in the wall. They found the other 2 curled in opposite corners of the pit, eyes wide, faces torn open. No one could explain it. But the state came sniffing around. Jessup was forced into early retirement, and the hole, sealed shut with concrete, topped with dirt, and forgotten. Or so they thought. 54 years later, a new kid came through intake, Jamir Wallace, 19, slim, jumpy, didn't belong in a place like Eastham, but the system doesn't care about that. He'd held up a gas station with a broken gun and got slapped with 10 years. First timer, no gang, no backup. He got assigned to work crew. Weeding and hoeing the old cotton fields, hot, boring work. Most of the guards left the field crews alone, so long as no one tried to run. That's where Jamir started hearing things. He told his bunkmate that the ground hummed sometimes, that when the sun dipped behind the clouds, he felt something move beneath his boots. His bunkmate laughed. "Boy, that's just gas or ghosts," he said. But Jamir stopped eating. Said the food tasted like dirt. Kept having dreams of being buried alive. Woke up covered in sweat, screaming about a voice in the soil. Nobody believed him until he vanished. It was a Thursday. Work crew was packing up. Roll call showed one short. They searched the fields, the woods, checked the perimeter. Dogs couldn't catch a scent. Cameras didn't show him leave. But near the center of the field, right where nothing grows, they found a sinkhole, small, fresh, no bottom visible, and a single boot lying beside it. The tremors started a few nights later, tiny at first, like someone jumping in the next cell, but stronger each night. The guards blamed nearby drilling or old pipes, but then came the scratching in the showers, in the walls, even from under the beds, like nails against concrete. One guard, Officer Ruiz, said he felt something breathe against his ankle while he was doing a 2 a.m. head count. He refused to work nights after that. Then, 3 weeks after he disappeared, Jamir came back. It was raining. A storm had softened the earth behind the field. One of the guards on tractor patrol saw movement near the patch of dead grass. At first, he thought it was a coyote, but when he got closer, he saw fingers, human fingers, clawing up through the mud like something trying to be born. It was Jamir, but he wasn't the same. He was naked, filthy, thin. His skin looked waxy and stretched, like it had dried and been rehydrated. His eyes were open, but wrong. One pupil was bigger than the other. His teeth had gone crooked. And he was speaking, but not English, not Spanish, not anything the nurses or guards could make out, just harsh, whispering sounds, like rocks grinding together. He wouldn't stop. They sedated him, strapped him down, and called in a translator. One chaplain, old as hell, said it was Aramaic, ancient biblical language, the kind spoken before Christ. They asked what he was saying. The chaplain turned pale. "He's not speaking," he said. "He's repeating, like he's listening to something below." That night, the tremors came back harder than ever. One guard broke his ankle when the floor cracked under him. And from the showers, even from the plumbing, came a low voice, echoing like it was in a cave beneath the prison. "Not full, not full, not full." They sealed the field, put up fences, barbed wire, concrete posts, but every now and then, the dirt still shifts, and if you lie real still in your bunk, after lights out, you might hear it. The sound of fingernails, scratching from beneath the floor, like something is trying to come back up. Again. They say prisons remember. Not in the way people do, not with stories or photos, but in the walls, in the floors, in the dark places where time doesn't pass right. At the Ramsey unit, in the humid backroads of Rosharon, Texas, there's a wing no one talks about anymore. B-Wing East. Used to hold 40 men, medium security, standard cages, no cameras back then, just flesh and steel and hope for the best. But in 1987, something happened down there. A cough, they said, just one man at first, then 2, then a dozen. The prison tried to cover it up. They shipped the bodies out quiet, said it was some kind of fungal thing, spores from the air vents, or maybe the walls. 6 men died in less than 3 weeks. The rest were transferred. The wing was locked, sealed, forgotten. Until the coughing started again. 30-2, tough, army vet, Night shift corrections officer. Not the type to scare easy. She transferred to Ramsey in early spring. Like the night shifts, quieter, less drama, fewer politics. She walked the cell blocks every hour like clockwork, boots echoing through old hallways, flashlight in hand. That's when she first heard it. A cough, not a loud one, just soft awet. From behind the sealed door to B Wing East, she stopped, waited. Maybe it was pipes, or an echo, but then it came again. 3 short coughs, like someone trying to clear their throat. She reported it to her supervisor. "Place as rats," he said. "Maybe a coon or possum got in." She asked why the wing was sealed. He gave her a look. "Black mold, bad air, just don't go near it." But she kept hearing it. Night after night. Always between 2:30 and 3 a.m. Always the same. Short, sharp coughs. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 4. She asked the other officers if they'd ever heard it. A few looked away. One, an old lifer named Garcia, muttered something about a ghost who never made parole. Dana laughed. She didn't believe in that crap. Until the night the cough spoke her name. It was a Thursday. Quiet, heavy air. She'd just finished her second round. She was walking past the B-wing door. Thick steel, triple locked, chained from the outside. She paused, like always, and waited. Nothing. She was about to keep walking when it came. Not a cough this time, but a whisper. "Lopez." It came out dry, cracked, like lungs that hadn't seen air in years. Then the coughing started again. She backed away, fast, radioed it in. The next day, she demanded the door be opened, said it was a safety issue. What if someone got in there? What if there was a leak? The warden denied the request. So that night, she came back with bolt cutters. The hallway was warm. Too warm and still, like the air had been sitting there for decades. Her flashlight flickered when she cut the last chain. She thought it was just nerves. She opened the door. And the coughing stopped. The hallway beyond was pitch black. Dust coated the floors like snow. Every cell was empty, but the smell, Christ. It hit her like a wall. Mold, yes. But under it, something worse, sweet and sour, like meat left in the sun too long. She stepped inside. Slowly, the beam from her light cut through the dark, shaking slightly in her hand. She passed the first 2 cells. Nothing. Then, down at the end, she saw it. A man, or something shaped like a man, standing in cell B19, head tilted, eyes dark. She froze. He coughed once, wet, deep, then smiled, and the skin on his face cracked, peeled, like old paint. He raised a hand and pointed to her chest. "Lopez," he rasped. "You brought it back." She turned to run, but the hallway had changed. The door she'd come through, gone. Just another row of cells now, and from everyone, she heard it coughing. 40 voices, all wheezing, gagging, drowning in air. She dropped her flashlight, started running blind. Hands scraping the walls, coughing herself now. Deep, hacking fits that burned her throat. When she finally burst through the door again, it slammed shut. Behind her, the chains were back in place. They found her the next morning, unconscious outside B-wing, lungs swollen and full of fluid. Doctors couldn't explain it. Said it looked like she'd inhaled mold spores decades old, the kind that shouldn't even be alive. She never came back to Ramsey. Retired the next month, but she told one person before she left. Officer Garcia told him the worst part wasn't the man in the cell, or the way the hallway shifted, or even the voices. It was the silence. That's when it saw her, and it knew her name. They say every prison has one man you don't mess with. At Darrington unit, that man was called Smiley. No one knew his real name. His files said Leonard Shaw, but no one called him that. He wasn't big or loud, just still, like a statue that watched everything. He'd been locked up since the 70s. A murder, they said. Multiple. But what made him different wasn't the blood on his hands. It was the tattoos. Smiley could ink you with nothing but a sharpened paperclip and cigarette. Ash and his tattoos, they moved. People whispered they were cursed. Some said he mixed strange things in the ink. Ashes from burned Bible pages, blood, dirt from an unmarked grave near the chapel. Most said he'd sold his soul in solitary. Then came Jace, 21, fresh in, armed robbery gone wrong. Thought he was tough. Thought prison was just a test, he'd pass. Day 3 in the yard. He heard about Smiley. They say he gives you power, an older inmate whispered. If he tattoos you, ain't nobody gonna touch you. So Jace, thinking it was a shortcut to respect, found Smiley by the old bleachers. I want ink, he said. Smiley didn't blink, just nodded once. You sure, he said, voice dry as dust. You don't pick the tattoo. It picks you. Jace laughed. Whatever, man. Just make it cool. Smiley didn't smile. He never did. He pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside, a twisted bit of wire, a spoon, a lighter, and something in a tiny jar. Looked like black tar. He mixed the ink right there in front of him. And as the needle touched Jace's skin, the world seemed to quiet. The tattoo was done in 20 minutes. It was a black serpent, coiled around a cross, the tail wrapped around Jace's chest. The head sat just below his collarbone, mouth open like it was hissing at the world. It pulsed. He thought it was just fresh skin, until it moved. That night, in his cell, Jace watched the ink shift. The serpent's eye blinked. He blinked back, then it whispered. At first, it was soft, muffled, like someone speaking through a pillow. He pressed his ear to his chest. A name, Rodriguez. Next morning, inmate Rodriguez was found dead in the laundry room. Neck broken, no signs of struggle, just dead. Jace freaked. Told himself it was coincidence. Prison was dangerous. People died. Until the next night. Another whisper. Barlow, the guy who'd stolen his dessert the day before, was found stabbed in the showers 23 times. Jace didn't sleep. Every night, the serpent whispered a name. Every morning, that name was dead. He tried covering the tattoo, scrubbing it, burning it with a lighter. The ink wouldn't fade, wouldn't blister, wouldn't budge. Then, 3 nights later, he heard the whisper again. But this time, it didn't say anyone else's name. It said his. He lost it, ran screaming through the unit, tried clawing the tattoo off his chest. Guards tackled him. He begged them to cut it out, swore it was alive, that it talked to him, that it was a demon crawling under his skin. They sedated him, locked him in solitary, but the tattoo kept whispering, Jace, 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 over and over. One morning, the CO came by with breakfast, slid the tray through the slot. No response. He called Jace's name. Still nothing. So they opened the door. Jace was hanging from the vent with his sheet. But that's not what made the guard puke. It was the tattoo. It had spread, covered his chest, his throat, his face. Dozens of black serpents, each with a name inked inside the coils. And one last serpent, curled tight around his left eye. It spelled one word, Smiley. Smiley never said a word. They questioned him, of course, tried to connect him, but his hands were clean. No new tools, no contraband, just that little wooden box, still full, still waiting. They moved Smiley to a different wing after that. But even now, years later, the guards say they hear something from his cell at night. Buzzing. Like a needle. And sometimes, if you listen close, you can hear a whisper under it all. Your name.